Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
Ryan, what are you doing home? Vanessa, my wife of 28 years, asked as she stepped through the garage door and spotted me sitting at our kitchen table, less than 10 feet away. Her presence partially blocked the view of a tall, younger man following her into our house. As always, Vanessa looked stunning. At 5 feet 9 inches and a fit 145 pounds, she commanded attention. Her auburn hair brushed her shoulders, and she was dressed sharply, as she always did for work. Today, she wore a white blouse with an extra button undone, revealing a bit of cleavage that I couldn't help but notice. I briefly considered her absurd question before responding just as absurdly, "I live here." Her face flashed with the same irritation I had seen increasingly over the past few weeks as she snapped, "Of course you live here. What I want to know is why you're home at 3:30 in the afternoon." I often joke that I'd been in love with Vanessa since the moment we met. It was during an appointment I had with 4 top executives at her company, where Vanessa was the administrative assistant. She met me in the lobby and escorted me to the senior offices for my meetings. For hours later, as she walked me back, I took a chance and asked her to dinner. The rest, as they say, is history. By now, Vanessa's gentleman friend had scooted around her and was standing at her side. I was half expecting him to smirk, but his very intelligent eyes were showing signs of concern. From the start, things weren't going as planned. "I guess I could ask you the same question, Vanessa. What are you doing home an hour and a half early?" Vanessa and I have been joined at the hip since our first date. I'm proud to say that I have devoted every ounce of energy to her and our family. I worked hard and built a small, but very successful insurance brokerage firm. With the help of her employer, Vanessa went to college and in 6 years earned a bachelor degree. She moved from a support position and into human resources. Eventually, she headed HR in the company's Hartford, Connecticut office. I had loved Vanessa unconditionally for almost 3 decades. As I sat, looking at the monster she had become over the last number of weeks, I willed myself to be calm. I wanted to break her, just as effectively as she broke me, when I discovered she was a lying, cheating 304. When I gave Vanessa my signature crooked grin, she responded, "We came home early to talk with you." "We?" I asked, while looking Vanessa directly in the eye. Craphead took the opportunity to introduce himself. He stepped forward, held out his hand, and confidently said, "Mr. Smith, Ryan, I'm Nathan Bennett. I'm the new attorney at Kellerman & Sons, and I've been working closely with Vin for the last couple of months." While continuing to stare Vanessa down, I ignored his offered hand. I clenched in the primal instinct to jump up, wrap my hands around his worthless neck and squeeze until his eyes popped from his skull. Instead, I growled, "I know exactly who and what you are." For the first time, I saw signs of concern in my wife, and then she cringed when I followed up with, "Vin? You threatened to cut the balls off the last person who called you Vin. Why are you putting up with such disrespect? In your own home, from this pile of crap?" I was pointing toward Craphead. Vanessa looked worried and confused. By habit, she is a very careful planner. I was certain that she and Craphead had meticulously planned every detail of this conversation. She already saw me as a compliant husband, someone who would go along with whatever script they'd prepared. A quick glance toward Craphead made me smile. I was sure he was starting to feel nervous, just like I was. Things were about to go downhill fast, and it would be nothing like what Vanessa and her boyfriend expected. I took 2 or 3 deep cleansing breaths and tried to push the rage and disgust that had been growing into a quiet corner of my heart. "Let's get on with this," I thought to myself. "It's time to throw them off stride again." "Why don't I make 3 drinks?" I offered. "We can talk in the living room." "A glass of wine, please," was Vanessa's subdued request. When I turned to Craphead, he seemed wary. He responded to my offer by saying, "Vanessa tells me that you enjoy bourbon and craft beer." I nodded and told him, "I do," as I got up from the kitchen table and headed to the bar in our family room. As I left the room, I heard immediate and urgent whispering as they moved in the opposite direction, through the kitchen to the living room. A few minutes later, I met them in the living room. They were seated together on the sofa. I handed Vanessa a glass of her favorite Merlot, and Craphead a tulip glass full of amber ale. I took my 2 inches of bourbon and sat in the armchair across from them. After raising my glass in salute, I took a small sip of the burning liquid. After returning the toast, Craphead took a sip of beer. He held the glass in front of him and seemed to study the color and carbonation. He commented, "This is one of the most complex amber alesh I've ever had." "What is it?" "Natural light," I answered. Craphead's eyes flared with anger, and Vanessa looked confused and offered, "You've said that natural light is worse than donkey piss and the crappiest beer ever made." She was halfway through her comment when she saw me laughing. She exploded. "You're such an a-hole. We came home to have a calm talk with you, and you've been nothing but rude and condescending." I smiled and questioned. "I'm an a-hole, rude and condescending? I guess we really need to start your talk. I'm sure that I'm about to learn how to have a polite, uplifting, and loving conversation from my ever-faithful wife." Vanessa cringed and wasn't able to meet my eyes. Craphead took over and began, "Ryan, we've come here to discuss." I interrupted and said to him, "You had it right the first time." "Excuse me?" He looked confused, as crapheads often do. "When you first addressed me, you called me Mr. Smith, before presumptuously calling me Ryan. I greatly prefer, in fact, I insist, you call me Mr. Smith." As his face started to turn red, I finished with a shrug and said, "Or sir." Instead of letting Craphead continue, I turned to Vanessa and heatedly asked, "What do you want to talk about?" When Craphead looked like he was going to respond, I said, "I'm talking to my wife, a-hole. Just sit there, drink your complex amber donkey piss, and shut the hell up." Vanessa was livid and exploded. "Your behavior this afternoon has been disgusting. I want it to stop now." I nodded and seemed to think about her request. I asked, "Do you think my behavior is better or worse than your behavior over the last 5 or 6 weeks? What are you talking about?" Vanessa was half confused and half worried. Craphead seemed to be holding his breath as he waited for my answer. I'll guess he was certain that their carefully crafted plan had gone off the tracks. Looking Vanessa dead in the eyes, I told her, "I don't know what pisses me off more, that you let him have sex with you, or that you treat me like an imbecile." The stunned look on Vanessa's face was priceless. Her eyes narrowed, and in a hushed voice, she asked the obvious, "You know? It seems like I have more friends at your office than you do." I received an anonymous email from someone at Kellerman's 2 weeks ago. The email warned that you were having an affair and had 3 attachments that showed you on a picnic lunch at Middlewoods Park. The pictures were complete with hand-holding and kissing. "I'm sorry that you had to find out that way." Vanessa was trying to decide how to continue when I jumped in and asked, "So you want a divorce?" "No." She slid to the edge of the couch, leaned forward, rested her elbows on her knees, and passionately said, "I love you and don't want a divorce. What Nathan and I are having is a short-term fling. He's new to Connecticut and hasn't made many friends. Once he's settled, I'm sure he'll find a regular girlfriend. I'm sorry, but that doesn't work for me. I signed up for a monogamous relationship with a loving wife. Instead, I found out that the woman I've devoted my life to is a street hooker. A divorce works much better for my future plans." Vanessa begged, "Ryan, just stop. I don't want a divorce, and I don't think you do either. This is a one-time fling and nothing more. I'm attracted to Nathan, and I wanted a little extra excitement in my life. It's never happened before. It will be over soon and will never happen again. I promise." I took a small sip of my bourbon and sat quietly for a few moments before responding, "First, your promises have no meaning. Everyone in this room knows you're a liar." Vanessa was about to erupt when I talked over her and said, "And second, why would I ever believe this is your first affair? For all I know, it's your 51st. Please, you need to stop and think. We've worked together to build our family, and now that Maria is married and thinking about starting her own family, we can slow down and plan for a wonderful retirement in a few years. My fling with Nathan will be long over and forgotten." I got up and, without asking if anyone wanted another drink, walked to the den and refilled my glass. I was confident that my poor manners were not lost on the 2 idiots in the living room. They were huddled together and whispering when I returned. "May I say a few things, Mr. Smith?" Craphead asked. "The floor is yours." It was my disgusted reply. He gathered his thoughts before saying, "Vanessa is right. Our relationship is just a short-term fling. I regret that I led a married woman into an affair. I've never done that before, but we hit it off. As you know, she is a spectacular woman. Your threat of divorce, while understandable in the heat of the moment, will prove unwise over the long term. You've invested decades together. Don't throw it away." Vanessa was initially worried that the prenuptial agreement her father had you both sign would cause her to lose many of her assets in a divorce if we were caught. I can assure you, as a lawyer, that a nearly 30-year-old agreement can easily be overturned. Laws change. Legal wording becomes outdated. Any competent attorney will have the document laughed out of court. But even more important than that, you need ironclad proof of infidelity. Other than some mild, innocent public flirting that some of our associates may have seen, I'm confident you don't have the evidence necessary to enforce the agreement." I wondered, as he finished his brilliant legal summation, how my wife had become so stupid. Turning to Vanessa, I wondered, I can't understand why you would take legal advice from a corporate attorney who graduated in the bottom quarter of his class from Cooley Law School. It is ranked as one of the top 10 worst law schools in the country, year in and year out. How did you know? Craphead didn't finish as I answered. Have you read Sun Tzu's The Art of War? If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. I continued, as I turned my attention back to Vanessa. What's your plan moving forward, Vanessa? She took a few moments to think things through before she told me, Nathan and I are going to spend the weekend together. I'll be staying at his apartment tonight, and in the morning we are leaving for New York City. We'll stay in the city tomorrow and Saturday night, and I'll be home on Sunday. Even though I knew their exact plans, the sheer audacity of my wife's statement tore my heart from my chest. I hoped she could see the crushing sadness in my eyes as I asked, so not only have you shared your body with this piece of crap, you're also going to share our quarterly getaway weekend with him? We've gone to New York City 4 times a year, every year since we've been married. Memories of all the spectacular sights we've seen together, the award-winning Broadway plays, the concerts and sporting events. You've smashed all of the thousands of heartwarming memories. I don't know what's happened, Vanessa, but you've become as big a pile of turd as this a-hole. I was obviously indicating Craphead. Vanessa could tell I was devastated and responded accordingly. I didn't hear a single word she said, as the voices in my head were screaming, End it! End it now! Looking over at a very concerned Craphead, I asked, Is your wife okay with you screwing my wife? Ryan, stop. Nathan is a widower. His wife died several years ago. He would never cheat on his wife. Even Craphead had the decency to cringe at my wife's last statement. I smirked and said to Vanessa, Unlike you. I continued immediately and asked, Is that true? You're widowed? He quickly looked back and forth between Vanessa and me and hesitantly said, Yes. I reached down and pulled a manila folder from the backpack sitting on the floor next to my chair. I opened the folder, scanned the first page and read, Dr. Emma Bennett, Emergency Department Surgeon, husband Nathan, daughters Lily, 8, and Maya, 6. Dr. Bennett has resigned for her current position effective August 22nd and will be moving to the Stamford, Connecticut area to join her husband immediately after her children get out of school. She will be working in a similar position at a medical center in Stamford. If I wasn't so grossly unhappy about my marriage, I would have laughed hysterically at the look on Vanessa's face. You lied to me? She wanted to know. I couldn't help it. I did laugh. Can you imagine? I bellowed. A cheat and a liar lies to a hooker to get laid. What's this world coming to? Nathan reached out and cupped Vanessa's hand. Just before I could shout, Get your hands off my wife, I realized I just didn't care. Then, baby, I'm sorry. I did lie. I couldn't help it. You are so sexy and beautiful. I wanted you and needed you and I lied, so I could have you. He stood, while still holding her hand. Let's go back to my place and talk. We'll go to New York tomorrow and have a great weekend. When we get back, we'll still have 3 weeks until my family arrives. At that point, you can be a full-time wife and I'll be a full-time husband and father. Vanessa considered her options for a few moments before standing. She took Craphead's hand and turned toward me. After this weekend, I promise to give up Nathan completely. I'll come home on Sunday, and I'll be the same loving wife I've always been. Vanessa and I stared at each other for a while. I wondered if she could hear my already crushed heart continuing to break. I've sat here somewhat politely, while you both had the opportunity to tell me about your fling and how, in the long term, it won't affect my relationship with Vanessa. I'd like to ask that you both sit down and give me a similar 30 minutes of time to lay out the changes I see happening. They looked back and forth between each other and me, trying to silently decide what to do. I pushed the issue and said, The least you can do is give me 30 minutes of your time. Reluctantly, they sat. I've set up several Google meetings for us, I told them as I pointed the remote at the TV and pressed a few buttons. I'd become an expert at arranging Google online meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the TV lit up, I said, Marco, Bill, can you hear me? I was talking to the two faces on the screen. We can, Ryan, Marco answered. I continued, Vanessa, you obviously know our family attorney, Marco. I'd like to introduce you to his partner and my new divorce attorney, Bill Brown. Gentlemen, I'd like to also introduce you to corporate attorney extraordinaire, Nathan Bennett. Vanessa and Craphead were stunned. As I finished with, Gentlemen, you have the floor. Bill immediately started, in a no-nonsense manner, Mrs. Smith, I am representing your husband in your upcoming divorce. Papers were filed with the court earlier this afternoon. I'd greatly appreciate it if you would retain an attorney and make arrangements to officially be served. I'll give you until the end of the day on Monday. If I haven't heard from your attorney, we will hire a process server. We have filed for divorce using infidelity as the cause. We have private investigators report that documents in great detail, using audio, visual, and telecommunication proof, your sexual affair with Mr. Bennett. As Bill was finishing his last statement, I tossed a second manila folder onto the coffee table in front of Vanessa. The loud slap made both a-holes jump. It's a copy of our divorce petition, including the PI report, I told the stunned couple. While Crabhead reached for the folder, Vanessa looked back to the screen. We will be insisting that the prenuptial agreement is fully enforced. I know that you are aware that every 2 years, all of your family's business and personal legal matters are reviewed. As part of that review, the prenuptial agreement has been revised so as to stay within the current state legal guidelines. As we have your signed and notarized signature for every update over the last 28 years, I am 100% confident that the prenuptial agreement is fully enforceable. Per a vote last night, by the Board of Directors of Smith Brokerage, you are relieved of all corporate responsibilities and you are no longer associated with Mr. Smith's firm in any way. You will have 7 days to return your car to the company. Your company credit cards have been paid off and canceled. Your cell phone will be canceled in 7 days. Your membership to the country club and fitness club are canceled. We have also paid off and canceled the 3 joint credit cards you have shared with my client. We have frozen your joint savings, checking, and retirement funds. Per the prenuptial agreement, we expect a 95-5 split of the cash and near-cash assets in Mr. Smith's favor. Per the agreement, Mr. Smith will retain your house free and clear. We have asked the court to expedite your eviction. As you have a home that you have been sharing on occasion with Mr. Bennett, we will argue that it is easier for you to move. We are asking the court to give Mr. Smith full possession of the property immediately and give you 30 days to remove your personal property from the house. There will be no alimony and obviously child support isn't relevant. There are many smaller claims that my client has made. Your attorney can explain them to you. Ryan, have I missed anything? You've hit all the highlights, Bill. Thanks. The TV screen immediately went to black. Just as quickly, Vanessa jumped to her feet and screamed, "Wait." She looked at me and said, "Get them back. I have questions." I laughed and said, "That's not how it works, Vanessa. You'll need to hire your own lawyer to get your answers." "You pig," Vanessa growled. "I'm going to destroy you." With a smirk, I looked at her partner in crime and asked, "Hey, craphead, what does your near-genius legal mind tell you is the over-under on this woman destroying me in the divorce?" His silence had Vanessa sink back into the couch and curl in around herself. I'll guess my smile was ear to ear. I simply held up the TV remote and waved it at her, before pointing it at the TV. As the second meeting started, I said, "Tony, can you hear me?" "Hi, Ryan. I've got a conference call that I need to jump on, so this will be quick. Bennett, you were fired, effective immediately. Your personal items are being removed from your office and will be in a box in the lobby. If they aren't claimed within 24 hours, they will be thrown out. You will not be receiving a recommendation." Vanessa. I could hear her boss slow down and sigh. I looked over at Vanessa and saw her shaking. She was scared to death. "I can't tell you how disappointed I am. Your behavior as a senior member of my staff is inexcusable. That being said, 29 years of exemplary service must be taken into account. Your position here has been eliminated. I'm offering you the same position at our facility in Wasilla, Alaska. You have a week to decide if you'll take the transfer and 30 days to move to Alaska." The screen went blank again as Vanessa cried into her hands and Craphead slouched back into the couch. I was purposely smirking at Craphead. When he saw me, his rage started to build. He was younger, bigger, and I'll guess stronger. Unfortunately for him, he was dumb as a rock. As Craphead was ready to explode, I once again waved the remote, pointed it toward the TV, and pressed a button. The screen lit up and I asked, "Dr. Bennett, can you hear me?" Craphead and Vanessa sat in stunned silence. They were white as ghosts and their mouths were hanging open. The face of a beautiful blonde filled the screen. She said, "I've asked you to call me Emma." "Sorry, Emma. The floor is yours." "Nathan, I've filed for divorce. Expect to be served over the next few days. The kids and I will remain in Detroit. I've been able to keep my current position at the hospital." Craphead begged, "Emma, please. We can work this out. It was just a fling." The face on the screen looked disgusted. "I've been doing some checking since Ryan contacted me. This is the 3rd job you've lost because you couldn't keep your emotions contained in your pants. After I received the private investigator's report, I contacted him and asked him to do some additional digging." Everyone was staring intently at the screen. When Emma continued, "Mrs. Smith, Do you know Alice Packer? Joy Likely? Tori Jones? Candy Phillips? When Vanessa didn't answer, Emma laughed and said, I really don't expect an answer. The question was rhetorical. I know they are all associates of yours. Did you know Nathan had flings with each of them? Can you imagine? You were just one of his many conquests. Tell me where to send your crap, Nathan. You're not welcome at my house. When the screen faded to black again, Craphead yelled, I'm going to kill you. He struggled to his feet as I slipped my Colt .45 from between the chair cushion and pointed the monster at him. Craphead looked like he was going to vomit, which was exactly the look I wanted. You've got two choices, Craphead. You can leave, or you can sit down and shut the hell up. I don't care what you do, but if you come at me, I'm going to shoot your left ball off. I'm not sure if I was completely happy that he sat back down, but was grateful that I'd be able to have my last planned Google meeting. I looked over at Vanessa. She was pale. Her cheeks were streaked with tears and mascara was smudged around her eyes. She looked awful. I've been seeing a counselor for the last 2 weeks. Vanessa groaned and cried into her hands. It's kind of funny. You cheat, lie, and share your body with this a-hole, and I'm the one that needs a mental health expert. I laughed and said, how messed up is that? A few moments later, I told Vanessa. After I told Dr. Waters our story, she asked me a question that's helped me a great deal. She asked, do you understand the old saying, love is blind? When she asked the question, it was like a light going on in a dark room. I loved you so much that I would have never known you were a cheating 304, if not for the anonymous email. My love was so strong that it overlooked your warts. Hell, in my eyes, you didn't have warts. I hope you know, you'll never find anyone who will love you as much as I did. Vanessa continued to cry and rock back and forth on the couch. I'm going to continue seeing Dr. Waters. I think it's important to have someone to trust with your innermost thoughts and feelings, especially after such a devastating event. I would have never imagined it was possible for someone I loved so much could humiliate and disrespect me to such a degree. But the good news is, I'll get over the hurt and humiliation, just like I will get over you. I told Dr. Waters about my plan for today. She isn't a big fan of revenge, but thought the first 3 Google meetings were okay. She thought that you deserved some payback. She did try to talk me out of our next meeting. She thought that the pain it would cause me might take me back a few steps in my personal recovery. I've thought about it, and will admit that Dr. Wilson is probably right. The next meeting is going to do me more harm than good. But I don't care. This next meeting will hurt me, but it will cripple you. As I held up the remote for the 4th time and waved it at Vanessa, she shrunk back into the couch in a panic. I pointed it at the TV and pushed the button. All eyes were riveted to the screen, and when the face appeared, Vanessa groaned, oh no. Oh no. Please God. Oh no. I love you, Daddy, said my daughter Kelly. I love you too, sweetheart. Why? Vanessa shrieked. How could you possibly be this awful to me? I heard it all, Mom. I've heard every word you and your a-hole boyfriend have said over the last hour. I've heard what you've done and what you plan to do. You disgust me, Mom. Sweetheart, please. This is a very complicated situation. You're too young to understand. It took Vanessa's breath away when Maria responded, shut up, Mom. I'm a 26 years old, a happily married woman. Your situation isn't complicated. It's grotesque on one hand and pitiful on the other. I don't know what's changed, but you are selfish and totally self-absorbed. Vanessa was breathing deeply as she begged, Maria, baby, I've been so lonely since you moved away. It was like I was living in a fog. I missed you so much. Maria's face on the screen looked perplexed. So what you're saying, Mom, is that it's my fault you've become a liar, cheat, and 304, crushed dad and are going to get divorced. No, that's not what I'm saying, and you know it. It doesn't matter, Mom. I think we all need a break from you. Maria, Vanessa shouted. I'll come to Boston this weekend and we can talk. I'm so sorry this has happened. I need to be with my baby girl. That's not going to work, Mom, for 2 reasons. First, you'll be in New York, screwing your worthless, unemployed, newly divorced boyfriend. I'm not going to New York, Vanessa insisted. And second, Roger and I have planned a small private celebration for our closest family and friends. We've rented a venue closer to our home. Baby? Oh, baby. What are you celebrating? Since you aren't invited, I'll tell you. I'm 3 months pregnant and will be having a baby girl in February. Maria, and I'm your mother and I insist that you invite me. That's not going to happen, Mom. I want my special party to be filled with love and happiness and not the lying, cheating, and disrespect that is consuming so much of your current life. Goodbye, Mom. For the 4th time, The screen went blank. As Vanessa sat and cried, I got to my feet and tucked my pistol into the back of my pants. I'm going out for dinner, and we'll be back in 2 hours. Looking at Vanessa, I said, please pack clothes and other essentials. You won't be allowed back into the house until the court responds to my divorce petition. I'm told that will take a week. Looking at Crabhead, I said, you've seen what I am capable of doing. I'm giving you 3 days to move out of the state. If you are still here on Monday, I'll have you crippled in a much more literal sense. After pulling open the front door, I looked back at the utterly defeated cheaters and said, enjoy your weekend in New York. It's supposed to be beautiful both days. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.